You're listening to the Nosy Dragon. I'm your dungeon master / innkeeper, Jesson. I'm joined by my players / patrons, Ben.
Good evening.
And Josh.
Great to see you.
In today's session, we're talking all about role-playing stats. This episode was made possible in part by Folgery's Magical Mundanities. More about them later in the episode.
Great.
Marvelous.
Stats. You know,
Guys, come on
Very-
in. Take a seat. Take a load off.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Hope you enjoyed the fifth summer's ritual going on out there.
I know. I'm so happy it takes place every 10th summer.
Yeah.
I was surprised. You know, last time I went to a fifth summer ritual, there was like we got to see the king in person there, but for some reason he didn't show up.
Rumor has it he was using a fork of flavoring with prestidigitation, and he's been shitting himself nonstop.
Oh no! Yikes.
It's funny, but that can get really bad really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to. You want to take that seriously. Definitely no. You know, I've seen the TikToks. I've seen the challenge videos.
Yeah,
it's
Good bugbear. I knew. Killed him.
I knew that guy too. Yeah,
It's worse than
straight up died from it.
Straight up died from it.
It's worse than what Tide Pods were, honestly. Like,
What a callback.
Stats, guys.
right?
Stats. Let's get into it.
Intelligence. How to play roleplay low intelligence. Eat Tide Pods.
So
There
yeah,
we go.
we're
That's the
discussing
episode.
the how you can role play. The highs and lows of different stats.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, I guess, because I guess it's easy to start with the low ends of things.
a lot of
'cause I think
people-
it's a lot easier to play a low stat, especially if you're comfortable with it, than a high stat. At least, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I think the big one that I see a lot of people, or I don't know, I guess this one I think is a pretty common one to like really ham up if you got it, if it's very low, but intelligence.
Yeah. It bothers me that I feel like the only way I've experienced a lot of players really leaning into low intelligence is to go into mental health issues, like or
Where they're like not even cogent at all.
or like physical disabilities, right? That impair your ability to be clear or whatever. It's like they're role playing as though they have like severe autism or worse. And it's just like,
yeah, like
guys,
some sort of mental
it's so-
deficiency.
it's just like,
It's like completely unable to understand certain things, But I think something to think about is like, I guess this is sort of but like most animals and like I guess especially like a dog in D&D has an intelligence of -4, and I think we've all experienced how smart dogs can,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
as a reference, they can't. But so if you have like a 0, I don't actually think it's even legal on a character sheet in 5th edition to have a -4 in your stat. So
as a player.
yeah, as a player.
I mean, 5th edition is definitely a little bit more lenient when it comes to stats, but it's true. What's crazy to me is that people will play those like very clearly mentally deficient or like characters with something wrong with them with like a -1. Like they'll have a 9 on their character sheet, and all of a sudden they can't
or a
function
0
properly.
That's just because they have low intelligence in real life.
Oh no.
Harsh. But I think there are a lot more interesting ways, and I think a lot more like there's just other ways that you can do it. And I
low
think
intelligence, I think, is something I've experienced a lot in people who curse is their only means of communication. Instead of using words as like or or and or they say like fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking. And it's just like, okay, dude, you're not gonna you can say something incredibly like, look, dude, if you want to like fucking show a girl like how to like feel fucking loved, you gotta like you gotta get your ass like fucking like serious about the relationship. You know what I'm fucking saying? And like you gotta like
Yeah, no,
just,
no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
if you remove that, it's like if you want to be serious, show your girl that you're serious in a relationship. You've got to get up and show her with your actions that you care. It's like I said the same thing, sounds way more intelligent without the ass and fucking and
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
just,
so true. It's a well, that's I have never tried that before, but I think that would be a very like
It's definitely one avenue to take it. And I think
also
what's
a low
also
charisma, I think, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It could
But
be
it
a
in
low
yeah.
charisma as well.
But it's also like I think what's cool about it is that there are in reality so many different ways that you can play it, and sometimes it's like like when you have this low stat, people kind of have a default of what they expect, but there's a lot of other ways where you can kind of play it, you know, or at least a lot of avenues that you can explore. Like I don't know, something easy like to just develop kind of like a quirk, like you have really terrible mental math, you know, is sort of like a
yeah.
simple and funny way that you can show this character has low intelligence. Like, so there are 6 guards coming that way and 3 coming the other way. I think there's a 7th of the first group in the other hallway. And then he's like, yeah, could be 30, 40 guards coming our way. You know?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Definitely.
Here, 3 of you go that way, 4 of us will go that way. That way it's even.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But something like that is just a silly quirk that's not kind of going to step on the other player's toes when they're trying to do something, but that's going to show, oh, this character has low intelligence. Because I think also it's easy if you want to really ham up a low like ability score to sort of like starts almost like sabotaging the party with your poor decision making.
Yeah, exactly.
Which sometimes can be really fun, but other times I think can be pretty frustrating for the group.
It's like, here, I would like to give you this +3 Vorpal sword. And I was like, look, man, I'm not stupid. Give me the 20 gold that you promised.
I will not be swindled.
Yeah, man. I know a raw deal when I see one.
Yeah. +3, that does not even close to 30. Thank you very much. But stuff like that, but like silly quirks. And I think, yeah.
I'm not stupid. I know 20 gold is worth a lot more than +3.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind
17 more.
Oh my god.
Easily. But I think also like other little quirks. A character I played that's sort of it's a little different, but he was so unaware about how currency worked. He didn't have great intelligence, but it was a funny thing with his character where the guy would be like kind of like trying to raw, you know, like that'll be 3 gold for that information. He's like, that is a lot. Just like trying to gauge, and it was funny in a way, and it kind of just became this very silly running joke for the group.
I think the other thing you can do is like, I just gave that guy a gold piece and he gave me 10 silver. What an idiot.
Yeah.
Anyway, quickly, give me all your gold. I'm gonna get all the silver I can out of this idiot.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But there's a lot of ways that you can play it with like being a little bit more subtly unintelligent. Like maybe you are like, you know about things, you know, you're like educated, but you're not very clever at all, you know? So like, that's on the like just coming up with terrible plans side of low intelligence, but you know.
Well, I would say that like what kind of intelligence as well, like intelligence texts often cover things like being able to recall historical information or like the lore about a certain craft or trade or like being, you know, intelligence can in part be just knowing an area really well or having a good idea of like who's in power and who's around. So even just ignorance about like the stature of what people are at or like not being able to pick up on the fact that you know, all these people who are wearing this white tabard are part of like this high society. And you're like, wow,
Just so unaware of. That's all. Yeah, that's also a good way. That's a good way to like kind of play to being so like.
Yeah, like the opposite of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Well, all of the men who attacked us are wearing the same mask, which means they must have all shopped at the same store. It's like, no, I think the takeaway is that they're all in the same guild. Trust me. That's not it.
That doesn't make any sense.
Clearly, the masks are making them do these heinous crimes. I've solved it.
I've got it. We need to go to the mask maker.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are sort of funny and just like easy ways to really incorporate those into your role play. You know, because stuff like that comes up all the time. And if you have that like, oh, bad math, or like just really like always picking up on the wrong clue, you know, or like very unaware of like, yeah, like the hierarchy or social structure.
You have like a sphinx or something, and he's like, you have 3 chances to guess something, and he like, your unintelligent character, sorry.
Whoa there.
Slips, just immediately makes a guess and burns one of your 3 guesses. It's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, like I don't know. The answer is night or something like that. Like, I come at the end of every day, and I, you know, fill the world with the light of candles and torches, and I
got it. Milkman. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't
and then they're like,
oh wait. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
and I bring slumber to all those.
and it wasn't
who are
Milkman.
tired.
It wasn't
Milkman.
And then he's like, no, what are you doing? Stop. And he's like, we've at least, 6 or 7 more guesses.
Yeah, but that's not like,
And that's also another way, like, just so, I mean, that I think could work with like low wisdom, but being so unaware and like never fully hearing what someone's saying,
Yeah.
well, yeah, let's talk about low wisdom then. Like,
Because I guess that's a natural segue.
yeah. What
Because that's also like that one I think like is a less often tapped into. Because I do feel like if you're not like a magic user, oftentimes you'll just like wisdom is an easy dump stat. But it can be like, if you've got a really bad wisdom, it can be fun to like, play around with what does that look like being so incredibly naive, because like, wisdom is sort of directly related to your life experience. So it's like,
Or
this,
not. Well,
yeah.
I think this could be intelligence or wisdom, but like not understanding that someone is trying to subtly communicate something.
Yes.
So
yeah.
you're with a friend, and you're encountered by a stranger to you, but an acquaintance to your friend, and the acquaintance is like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to reach you forever. Did you move or something? They're like, oh yeah, I did. I just never. And it's like, no, you didn't move. We still live at the same place. I see you throw away his letters all the time. And it's like, they're not trying to get you in trouble. They don't get that you're not picking up on how uncomfortable you are around this person.
But
why
also like that's a funny way to like play both of them, like to look at that different, where it's like perhaps with your low wisdom there's like somebody trying to like subtly get your attention by like doing some odd maneuver,
or, like,
and like this
winking at
low
you.
wisdom person is just like totally zoned out and just like
just oblivious to it. Yeah.
totally oblivious, maybe even like glances over at them and is like, interesting.
You're sitting at the
What a
table
crowd.
and they're like kicking you underneath the table because you're saying something you shouldn't be saying to the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, stop kicking me. You're distracting me from being able to tell him our plan. Or it's
I
like,
am trying to speak. Yeah.
why are you blinking with one eye? You got something stuck in your eye?
Mm-hmm.
Here, I can give you a flask of water. You can wash it out.
See, I think the
Please,
difference.
you are distracting me from the story.
I think the difference between
beautiful camp we've set up on the top of the mountain.
I think the difference between low intelligence and low wisdom is that with low intelligence, you would see and like pick up on all the cues that they are giving to you, but you don't get what they mean at all because you don't have the like the understanding in your head to make those connections, where like
put the pieces together.
low wisdom is like maybe if you saw them you'd be able to pick up on it, but you're just completely oblivious to it, like you don't even
And and one way to
notice.
that's one avenue to play it, but also like, it could mean that you're like incredibly inexperienced or naive, or like
Sure.
you just don't have the wherewithal to like really think things through, like you just barge into the like room where you were like everyone was like listening, like,
Yeah.
I'm going in,
Like, why are we struggling to hear them? It's like, well, because they're speaking quietly. It's like, well, I'll just open the door. That'll make it easier.
That'll make it way easier. You guys are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, also the funny like never understanding like the innuendos, like this club isn't really for this type of demographic. Okay, interesting. Is it like, am I too short? But I don't know, something like that. But like not quite picking up on the
We don't
social.
like your kind here, and you're like playing undead goblin, and then you're like, that's unfortunate. It looks like they don't like elves.
And then he like walks in.
Yeah. Wait out
Sorry,
here.
don't worry about my friend here. Yeah.
No, you're kind. It's like, oh, is it because I have pointy boots?
I can take them off. That's fine. I understand.
I can take them off, but you might not like the look of it.
Oh gosh.
That's so funny. There's a lot of potential, like with low skills. I think that like having low ability scores can be really really fun if you play them well into your character and you keep them present. I would say even if like you come up with something fun for your like for one of your dump stats, for your character, like put it in your flaws. Make it something that you can look back to and remind yourself of.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. And then there's other one like charisma. I think kind of on that same topic of like not quite, because I think charisma is a good one to be like you have no understanding of social cues. We had in a group once, we had someone with again,
Maybe
this
you
was before we
get the cue, but you just don't care.
another way to play it, like yeah.
Like you're aware that your friend is uncomfortable, and that's why they're lying about their address. But you're just like, that's dumb. Just tell them that you don't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
no, we still live at the same place. He's just avoiding you. And it's like, that's not, you're not unintelligent. You're just rude.
Rude. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I like, I played so I have a character that I never got to play exactly, but a character, and how I planned to play them, they had -1 to their charisma. They had 9 in their charisma, and I planned on just playing them very monotone. Of just like everything he says is just very flat and just not a lot of tone, not a lot of expression. It's like, oh wow, that's really exciting. And it's like, are you being sarcastic? It's like, no. Why would you think I'm being sarcastic?
Yeah.
This is the best day of my life.
I love it.
I'm so happy to see
I'm
you. You don't have to
literally
be a jerk
crying.
about it.
Tears
No,
of joy.
you're my best friend. I'm so glad I can
Don't
see
go
you.
in that room. It's full of vampires. It's really scary. It's like, you're joking, right? Why would I be joking about something like that?
Why would I be joking about something so intense?
It's like you can at least take a little bit of time to take things seriously, and they open the door and then
Group of vampires.
Your Majesty, I'm truly honored to meet you today.
oh no, that's
Yeah,
gonna have the
that's I feel like when you're talking to royalty, that's when the bad stats role play always comes out, right?
It's when all the other members of your party are like biting their nails, like don't, please, just don't.
Uh-huh. But yeah,
Well,
yeah.
The low
Right.
charisma, I feel like, also comes through with, really poor word choice, like using a lot of the same words for everything instead of, grand, massive, large, expansive. Instead, you'll use big. for all of those different varieties.
Yeah.
There was a big field and a really big bird that flew over it, and then there was this really big rock in the middle.
Just a horrible storyteller.
And then the really big bird landed on the big rock in the big field.
Yeah.
Poor description.
Just so bad at describing. I believe it was but I think, I don't know. Also on that same topic, I think another way to play charisma is, it's like easy to play it as like, or not easy, but one way is like rude or disrespectful or like super stiff or monotone. But also you could play it as like shy or kind of like awkward or a little like not quite like just in your own little world, you know?
Or you're really hyper confident, but the stuff you say is not very intelligent.
Yeah, like
I am the best, I'm the greatest there ever was at, what are we doing? Fishing. I'm the best fisher.
I'm the fishiest guy you've ever
fished with. I
even
invented fishing. If you didn't know that.
I am the greatest. Yeah.
Well,
but
now
that's a good way
now
to
we're
like
getting back to intelligence here.
Because you can absolutely be a dick with high charisma, but or a really nice person with low charisma. Like Newt from Fantastic Beasts. I just watched those movies recently.
Oh, cool.
He would, I think, have very low charisma, but he's a very sweet and nice guy. But like,
or Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, Drax would have incredibly low charisma. Not that he's unintelligent or like unwise, but like metaphors and like social cues, or like the right time to say something is like
just lost on him.
It does in fact go over his head.
I would catch it. I actually remember you. It was during one of our D&D campaigns. There was this really incredibly like strong, intimidating character who we found out that she would speak in incredibly short, like grunty phrases that that were very, very simple. So our first assumption as players was like, oh, maybe she's not very smart. But it turns out her intelligence was like equal
really
to, if not higher than our own, but she just had a really low charisma score. And so like communicating those ideas just, they didn't happen.
You much weak. Far weak. Big weak.
Like
that's good. That's a good way to like.
We had a tendency of talking like to each other as if she would like didn't understand us, and then she would.
Why don't you convince her to let us break the thing, because you're better with words, and she's like, can hear you, not stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What think trying pull? Yeah.
Like Yoda. Yoda's incredibly intelligent and wise, but he doesn't sound like it at first.
Yeah, you're so right.
Of great wisdom I am.
It's interesting because there's a lot of different
charisma I have.
Charisma score 7 it is. Dumb stat it was.
That's good. That's really good.
See, I put, when I came out of the womb, I made sure to put a lot into my charisma score so I could do the Yoda voice.
Yeah, another way, one of the older ways of looking at low charisma is to say that your person is very unattractive.
And physically.
Physically speaking. So it's like, even though what you're saying is good and accurate, people aren't really listening because they're like, oh God. And I don't know if that's very woke or new era way. But you don't have to be woke in your D&D campaign.
If you want it to just be, I
can't tell you how many D&D settings I played in where women have equal rights. What is this inaccuracy?
Oh my God. Hey, it's high fantasy. God. It's what we all want.
Yeah, that's real high fantasy right there.
Jeez, Louis.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. That is, I do, on the topic of charisma, I do want to bring up, and I think this is a pet peeve a lot of people have, but that charisma is tied to intimidation. You know, I just feel like that doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
think that you don't have to be charismatic to intimidate someone. In fact, I feel like charismatic people are oftentimes less intimidating because I feel like you take them less like seriously and they're sort of like, I don't know, if somebody, you know, like the suave sort of like, you know, swashbuckler type with the high charisma, it's not going to be as intimidating as the like low intelligence barbarian, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's both definitely something that works both ways. You know, something I've offered to some of my very low charisma players that would like to use intimidation is to allow them to use their strength modifier.
Yeah.
In their
Which it should
charisma.
just
But
be like a burst.
that's a whole nother episode.
I don't
That's all
know.
about homebrew.
I really think that it should be both because you have like I think that when you're face to
Like
face
a
with
grapple
someone,
check.
yeah, like yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like, to
right, right. You
Use
can make
either
a grapple
or
check
with your
with
high
either
notes.
athletics, and you should just be able to do either strength or charisma.
Yeah,
Because I feel like, anyways,
I
that
definitely
is a
think
very
that
that's
you can be intimidating with charisma. Like if you think about if you've ever seen Peaky Blinders, like the Thomas's character, he's not like
Thomas Shelby.
Thomas
Yeah.
Shelby. He's tall, yeah, but you know,
He's not a very domineering guy. But
Exactly.
very intimidating in his like quiet and like slow and calculating persona.
Exactly.
I've also played a villain that had really, 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 really high charisma and really, 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 really high intelligence. And I gave a really intimidating speech. You guys had killed a bunch of his goons, and he didn't know it was you. And he was talking to you guys, and he was like, if I find out who's done this, who's ever killed my men, and he like went on to describe with so much intensity and passion of how he'll
Get back. Yeah.
get revenge and make right what was done.
Yeah, and that
Was incredibly intimidating. I remember personally, like the energy that I tapped into when I was done with the intimidation. I was like a little unnerved
A
myself.
little scared, yeah.
Of just like the intensity of like, spitting the words out, like literally like all this like spit getting on like the screen in front of me as I'm like with so much fury and anger and like passion about how I'm going to ruin the person, and like looking at you, and there was definitely an element of insinuating that I am suspicious of you in that communication. So I think that's charisma and intelligence that really drives home something intelligent. Yeah, but there's no strength behind them that physically that makes that intimidation. So
but that like calculated, intentional, like sort of like the words they're saying, there is no like falsehood to them. Like, I'm telling you directly.
You feel the intensity and the sincerity behind their meaning, and it's like, I don't know how you're going to do it, but you have such faith that you will, that I'm starting to worry that you might have.
I don't want to be here to see it. Yeah,
I don't want to figure out how.
Exactly.
I don't want to find out.
Yeah,
but and on that point, I think that strength also when you see like just natural fear responses is when you see something that looks like it could kill you, you are scared.
Yeah. A dragon could have really low charisma and still don't make you real scared.
Oh yeah.
Might be more scary because you're like, oh, I can't reason with him.
Yeah, which is also something that like,
I like your description of charisma as like passion, because it can be a little bit confusing about how, for certain like sorcerers, their main casting ability comes from charisma, and like for warlocks too.
To put it as passion is kind of it's a good thought about it.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna use that.
Passion fruit. That was random. Okay, so low strength. I think you could roleplay low strength by
Yeah.
showing the fact that you're weak, like struggling to keep up with the party, not literally, but like you're like, oh, slow down, you're going too quick as you're like climbing a spire,
Yeah.
or
Trekking
complaining
through the
about
woods.
the weight of a door as you try to open it, like, oh gosh, these doors are so heavy. Or struggling to lift a large goblet of alcohol, or complaining about the weight of your gear or something like that. um
I think
I
that
mean,
even in marching order, like you attempting to brush past one of your fellow people to go check out something, and then you stopping because you cannot move them at all. They're like a stalwart wall to you because you're not
yeah,
a strong guy. You're like, don't
yeah.
worry. Oh,
giving soft handshakes.
yeah.
That kind of
um
like limp fish hand.
yeah,
Ah, yeah.
yeah, I think those are little aspects that you can lean into.
Yeah,
um
little description to sort of. Yeah, and I think also the sometimes it can be a little like less, I mean not easier, but like with the physical stats, there's like there are sometimes like yeah, it seems a little clearer, like with dexterity playing
yeah,
it as like either like you're very clumsy or maybe very like slow to react,
you have
Mm.
really bad reflexes.
Yeah, reflexes or like hand-eye coordination, like
Yeah.
somebody throws you like like throws you like
What,
slides the drink down the table saloon style, and you
it
like
falls off the
it
edge of the
already
bar.
falls off the bar and you like slam your hand down like still trying to look badass.
Or someone slaps you and then you dodge.
Yeah, those could be very funny ways to play like low decks,
Mm.
Yeah.
and then like low
Tripping
con,
tripping on stairs,
tripping on stairs,
tripping on simple things like,
tripping on your cape constantly.
On your own two
Like
feet,
you have
yeah.
super low decks, but it's like because you have an incredibly long cape that you're
or
not willing to take
low
off.
dexterity, you could like break things that are fragile, because low dexterity doesn't mean you also have low strength, right? So
Yeah.
you pick up
Hmm.
something that, like, you're holding a wine glass and you like crack it, or you know you're just way too rough with things, way too like beyond clumsy, but just like you don't know your own strength because you're not dexterous, you don't have that like
Yeah,
Mm.
agile
yeah.
touch
I
to
feel like that's
things.
definitely the barbarian conundrum right there. It's like
Yeah.
having low decks and high
Yeah,
strength.
now I really want to play a barbarian with like horrible mental stats all the way across, as well as dexterity, and just be just everything in constitution and strength, and
Just like
just or have like terrible wisdom, terrible charisma, uh, awful dexterity, but like incredibly high intelligence and
Yeah.
incredibly high strength and incredibly high constitution,
dude,
and
your
just
AC
like
is gonna suffer
breaking
with that low
everything
deck.
and tripping everywhere. No, not
But
so much, right? Because like,
Well, no,
yeah,
because they're unarmored. If you're not
yeah,
wearing heavy armor, then you can. It's all about your dex and con.
barbarian, man, barbarian,
bar.
barbarian to the max. I
Hmm.
don't need, I
Barbarian.
don't need no dexterity, or I can play monk. I don't need no dexterity.
Actually, I would argue that dex is very important for monks. But I digress.
Shut up. You're
I
Okay.
right.
digress.
Oh man. Constitution. That's interesting.
Con
An interesting
is a
one.
hard because I think it's also like that is one that is very rarely tapped
Well,
into for role play
you get
potential.
sickly. You get sick easily.
Very pale.
You might
You're
have
kind of like
allergies.
you always have those like bags under your eyes, and your character has a big red nose and like a scarf around his neck,
Yeah, you
kind of
sleep
like looks
longer
pale.
than
Yeah,
most, right?
Just
You have
constantly
really, really
coughing.
bad liquor resistance, or whatever that's called.
you
Oh
get
yeah, you
drunk constantly.
can't
Your
hold liquor.
You like
alcohol tolerance.
you have like you have like a 1 in Constitution. You smell some hard spirits, and you like get drunk. You black out.
You already feel dizzy.
Oh,
Feet red.
I guess you could also
Yeah.
play it as being very easily queasy, like being
you pass out when
getting
you stand
sick
up
really
quickly.
easy. Oh wow, like anemic. Oh maybe.
That's an interesting way to take it, but like being like unable to like handle handle like the hardships of reality. Like your comrade is like their arm was nearly severed off. Oh, sorry, I want to. It's like about to faint, can't handle it, or
it's
like
80 degrees and you're sweating, like
yeah,
yeah,
or
yeah.
you're like freezing and it's 60 degrees. Like it's so cold in here. It's like, dude,
That's really funny. Like just always so cold or like way too hot, and the rest of the party is like totally fun. Those are fun ways to play it.
This bed is so uncomfortable. It's like it's wool and hay. Like this is really nice.
It's as about as comfortable as it gets.
I just can't seem to.
Can't seem to find the right spot.
I wake up. Oh, my back.
But also, you could play it like the food that you're eating is really disgusting, you know? And that, I think, could bring us very naturally to our sponsor.
Oh, yeah. Great segue there. So we mentioned it earlier about Fulgury's magical mundanities. Now, picture this. It's dinner time. You have laid out on the table, all it is boiled potatoes. Bland, flavorless, boring old boiled potatoes. Well, not anymore. With Fulgury's fork of flavoring, every bite of anything is delicious. Their brand new model, the G-Fork 5, has some incredible features, so you won't need any other piece of magical cutlery ever. It doesn't require any attunement, so you and your family can pick it up and eat anytime. It has unlimited uses, so no matter how big a meal you're eating, you can whatever you like. It comes in with built-in flavor profiles that you can swap through simply by speaking a command word. No more annoying attunement, no more charges that run out before you finish eating, and the ability to switch from sweet and savory without needing expensive reagents. Head to Fulgury's Magical Mundanities and tell him we sent you, and he'll give you 20 gold off and a free mug of continuous warmth. Fulgury's Magical Mundanities, where the mundane becomes magical.
Fulgury's Magical Mundanities is not responsible for any consumption of non-edible materials, spoiled foods, or poisons. Do not attempt to combine with use of prestidigitation.
An amazing product.
Taste, smell, or continuous and
Really,
uncontrolled
I'm so happy that they can sponsor such a, Fulgury's Magic Mundanities.
You're talking over the disclaimers.
I didn't hear them. Oh shit!
It's all right. I spoke pretty fast, so I can understand if you
heard it. That was actually in my contract. They wanted me to speak over it. I had my own side contract with them.
Dual contract? Damn it! All right. Well, honestly, having one of these in your drawers, it makes a difference. Ever just you don't want to cook anything, or you're too tired to, and all you have is like a pot of rice or porridge you've had just kind of sitting around in the fridge.
Eating one-day rations over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never been able to afford a Fulgury's fork of flavoring. Really? I've got a Galley's spoon of Splendor.
Oh. No, I mean those are pretty good. I mean,
I've tried one of those, but I can't handle the aftertaste.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, hey, if you wanted to borrow mine, like no attunement, so no problem.
Yeah, I'd love.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Yeah, I think playing to low constitution, allergies, I think pollen, stuff like that. It's something I never. It's just often you don't think of the D&D world really to that grainy of a detail. Like does my character ever get diarrhea or constipation or stomach cramps or like never consider that. Yeah, your character's always farting. Like I've never considered that. Like I don't think I've ever thought of my character farting unless it was like for comedic effect. So
right.
it's just I think you could do that. Like, really low constitution character, and you have like bad gas.
Bad gas. You have IBS.
Yeah, exactly.
Give the party disadvantage to stealth checks.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh my god.
Disadvantage to
somehow you do that but you do that with your constitution.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Let's break away
Yeah,
from the
now
low
going
stats.
because the low stats I think in some ways can be like the more fun and easy ones to play because I think everyone sort of has a handle on like
Let's take a
how or
toke,
How to be
what to
bad at
do with like a
something.
a
bad.
long drag, and let's talk about the high stats.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
That was a
Dude.
drug reference. See what I did there?
Oh, dude.
Truly.
Drugs, man.
So I guess let's
Drugs
go
are
in. We can
funny.
go in reverse order. So what is high? What is high constitution?
Oh,
You never get sick.
yeah.
Yeah, kind of the inverse of it. Some of those are high constitution. I find to be a hard one to role play. Besides being like very sturdy and strong, like fording the
You have
river
high
or
pain
dazed on
tolerance.
hike. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think generally, yeah, unbothered by things. Like I think you can play a very stalwart character. Like even
Hmm.
though like just very very resilient, you could be walking through a muggy swamp and the smell is awful and
It just doesn't bother you. You just don't care that the smell is so bad. It's just
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
just an unwavering stomach for all
Yeah,
kinds of things. Just being really tough, like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like an insanely tough character in like media. I guess like John Wick is pretty tough, but
Yeah.
it's not a lot of situations where you see him have to deal with too many adverse situations. But
another
yeah,
way to play con is like you're very fearless. Like you're not you like yeah you're not like afraid of.
yeah, brave. You
Hmm.
don't complain about anything. Like, you don't care if things taste bad. You don't care if it's cold. You don't care if it's hot. You don't care about anything. Like, you're not infazed by your environment.
Yeah,
Unwavering. I think high strength is obvious. You can you
lift
can
heavy things. Yeah.
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
also be kind of clumsy by like breaking things or whatever.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, like that's a fun way if you're high strength, you just don't know your own strength. Like you go to like grab something and just shatter it as soon as it
you like
touches
rip
surface.
the door handle off of a door, and it's like, oh,
Whoops.
weird. And it's like, is it locked? It's like, no, it's a push.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, that's good.
Recently I was playing I have a character with like a +5 to strength, and I've been playing that he's like he does workouts a lot. Like he'll do like pull-ups or one-armed
Nice,
push-ups.
nice.
I think he read a manual of gainful exercise, and that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
sort of started it. But that can be like a fun way to incorporate high strength. Like, while the group is talking, he starts doing like sit-ups or like, you know, he's like,
Squatting.
yeah, does doing squats to like, keep the blood flowing.
Yeah, definitely. I think also just at every opportunity, being if there's anything where like someone needs a door held open or like something lifted, like even if it's not even in your party, but like seeing over on the dock someone struggling with like a crate or something, you'd be like, oh, I can do this, guys, check this out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess cocky maybe is another thing.
Yeah,
You can
definitely.
play them as kind of jock-ish, you know,
in
um
nature, sure, yeah.
kind of arrogant perhaps.
Hmm.
High dexterity?
High dex. Yeah, high dex is, I think, also kind of like maybe you're very agile, very flexible.
I
Those ones I
find,
think like especially the high physical stats, they seem like they come out in more obvious ways,
yeah.
Do the limbo.
through the limbo. Or yeah, like you're always like, catching a fly or,
Really good
very
reflexes.
super good reflexes is a
Yeah.
common way to play that high dex.
Basically just the inverse.
The inverse of the bad ones.
I think
Yeah.
Where
it's
I think it
fun.
gets where I think it can get kind of tricky and also where you get a lot of options is in the same way with like playing low, like the intelligence. I feel like the
Mm,
mental stats lead to a lot of role play opportunities. I feel like having high mental stats also give you a lot of different avenues to explore. And
Yeah.
what I think is what is something that's different about it especially with something like high intelligence, is I think for someone, if you don't feel like or think of yourself as the most intelligent person, it can still like you can easily play a character who's like not very intelligent, but it can be a little bit more tricky to play a character who is very intelligent, you know? Or if you don't feel like the most charismatic person, to play a character who's incredibly charismatic, you know?
You've struggled with that, right, Josh?
It's very difficult for me. I'm very not, but no, I think it can be difficult, especially like even if you're a very wise character, to like be like, oh well, my character should know all these things about this world, but I don't have that frame of reference. So
yeah,
I
guess
think
the easy thing to do with the role play there is you can kind of lean on your dungeon master by being like, oh, I want to roll, right? And you can roll for these things that if you're like, oh, I don't know what I would say there, I don't know how I would. Okay, let me just roll for it, and then you tell me what I say. Or you can ask the dungeon master, just like, give me a prompt or something to say that's intelligent, or what would be convincing. What's like a convincing thing, and then you can like, oh, okay, yeah, and then kind of embellish on it.
Yeah, and especially with like those high, if you're playing a high intelligence or like charisma, high wisdom character, you don't quite know what they would say in the moment. You know, you can always they always say show don't tell. You can always tell instead of show. You can say my character gives a convincing speech, or my character delves into the intricacies of this situation.
Exactly.
And that don't think of that as like, I think that can give just as much character.
I've definitely done that. I played a character who was very talkative, really incredibly high charisma because he was a warlock, and I would often go into kind of rambly conversations with other players where I was just expositing, information in detail and just going over stuff and like over explaining things, because he was very chatty, and I would start it off in character like, well, you see, the thing how that works is that the male bull is attracted to, and then I would say, and then he goes on to explain in far too much detail for far too long about.
Right.
Yeah, and it gives it just as, in some ways, it gives just as much character as it would if you did that. And but so I think those are really helpful with, I think, especially intelligence. But I think there are some like fun avenues to explore with like wisdom and charisma in my, because I think just in the way that, like, I guess like in charisma you can sort of play like, having low charisma as being like kind of on two sides, like either you're like dick or like stiff or unaware, or you're like naive, or like not naive but like you're kind but your gestures are not friendly enough, so that, or like you're not helping in the right way, like you see the barmaid struggling with their drinks and you like try to pick all of them up and knock them over. But I think with charisma you can also play it like you could be very suave, like your guy, the swashbuckler, type, or you could be very kind and friendly. And I think that's really easy for a lot of people to tap into, to be like just a really nice guy. And I think that's just as, or nice person, that's just as charismatic.
Also, you can do like the politician route where you're not exactly kind or suave, but you're very, detailed, and you spin a good web where it's like, it's hard to escape, but you feel like you're having a hard time breaking out. I think one thing that can make you sound really intelligent is just repeat a thing. So it's like, if you want to have love in your life, you have to have life in your love. So it's like, it's you reverse the sentence. I can't remember what that's called, but like, just you say the thing you just said just backwards, and it makes it sound really profound and deep. The other thing
that's great
is
for
like take
wisdom,
long pauses to make it sound like you're saying something more profound. Like, this is really important for you to really grasp, because it is not something that's simple. It's not something everyone understands. If I say that quickly, it's like, this is something that's really important for you to grasp, and it's not something. It's not something that's simple. It's not something everyone understands. That sounds way less impactful, way less charismatic.
Then slowing down, and
so slow it down and then say something and then say it in reverse.
That's the very politician route.
You never exactly answer questions that are asked of you.
Yeah, that's a good way too to like just sort of like kind of spin your way
That's an
out of it.
interesting question. You asked me, did I divvy up the gold evenly? And it just makes me think about like, did did you contribute fairly in combat? And I'm not saying you didn't. I just think that we all need to take a look at ourselves and just think, how am I, showing up in the party? How am I bringing balance? And it brings me to a story that when I was a child.
Yeah, yeah. Completely disregard the original question and just sort of
Yeah.
waffle your way out of there. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, looking up those strategies, seeing what people use, that's some good
Useful,
homework
some
right there.
useful tips.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I would say it's for being someone that sometimes like feels awkward and who has delved into the world of awkwardness before while still having high charisma. It definitely can be difficult to try and play someone who's the
Very
crowd winner.
confident.
Yeah, exactly. Confidence, but it doesn't always have charisma takes a lot
doesn't
of
always
different
have to look
forms.
like that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And two, like I think on the topic of like kindness, your character could be very empathetic or sympathetic, And that could be a form of charisma too, because like,
I
people
think
kind of like it when you
a really great technique to role play someone who's really highly intelligent or someone who's really dumb is to think of a person you know really intimately who you see is being really dumb or really intelligent and think, what would they say? How would they phrase this? And kind of role
Yeah.
play them being themselves. That is
Uh-huh.
something I've done. I was playing a god, and he was the god of all magic, right? And I was like, gosh, how do I play this person and make him sound really intelligent? And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna role play as a lawyer that I worked with. He helped me in my immigration process, and
Mm.
like for my spouse, and it was just like, yeah, I just embodied like how would he say things, and he's just very analytical and he over explains things, but not in like a boring way or like demeaning way, but he'll just like he'll make sure that you understand it. And
Mm.
also he kind of stammers and stutters, and it
But
doesn't
like
make
in a
him sound
way that
stupid. Yeah,
yeah, but in a way it's like he's got a
like he's
lot
really
he's
thinking about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things he's got to like shuffle through in his mind to like get to the
So he'd be like,
Yeah.
there are so many different ways that this spell interacts with you and with the weave and
Mhm.
as a caster, and it's just like it gives this thing that he's like, gosh, this is so hard to break down.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
there's
Like
so
there
much to really get into here. Where do I even start? Yeah. But
they
that's
came
such a
off that
good
way.
tip.
That's
And I think
yeah.
like it's easy you can like call from people that you actually know, or even a really good tip, this is also just for role playing in general, but like just like have your basic character outline and then kind of fill the rest in with a character from some sort of media.
Mm.
Like but that's sort of like a just a useful role playing tip that I use sometimes to so that you can like just easily have that to call for mind.
You also
Yeah,
just make
definitely.
make stuff up, as like a smart person for the game because it's all fantasy anyway. So like I was also playing a Batman-esque character as an NPC for my campaign, and I was like,
Hmm.
I will just make up stuff that sounds really complicated to make him sound more smart. I
Yeah.
will just make
Yeah.
up technologies on the spot that are things that are very specific and very helpful. And it's just I will reference things that don't exist yet, or whatever, but just to make it sound like he's really well versed and very knowledgeable and knows a lot. And it's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
just make up details.
Don't be afraid, even, from a player's perspective, don't be afraid to do that too. Like you can come up with stuff and then work it out with your DM later. Like
Hmm. Also, oftentimes, like you can just say something, and sometimes your DM is excited to incorporate it, and other times they can just kind of ignore it. And nobody's gonna remember those like
Yeah.
tiny nitty gritty things the player says.
Exactly.
But it can be just like a nice way to be like seem wise. Like in the first century there was an elf who did believe these things, but his
Yeah.
clan and his tribe were wiped
Yeah.
out long ago.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as an intelligent person, make up statistics.
Over
Did you know 80% of statistics that are cited in conversation are made up on the spot, including this one?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I remember playing a tiefling warlock who was a student who very like completely obsessed with books and knowledge and lore, and very often I would uh, delve into a particular piece of information, and after checking it in with my DM, I'd try to portray it in a very like, oh, I just remembered this, from the far back of my mind. Let me go back through my books. Oh yes, this makes sense, and then stammer through it in a very similar sort of way.
But that's also like kind of a good topic you brought up that I think is also useful to like play an intelligent or a wise character, is just to ask your DM a lot of questions. Be like, is this something that I would notice, or would I know this about that? And the DM might, they think they could give you that, they could feed you that information, and then you can say like, oh, I kind of recount the party, or I deliver that information to them. And then that way it's like, you're helping your party get that vital information, but you don't have to be like, making it up on the spot. And that can be like, I think, just useful, like, as I think that is an intelligent thing to do as a role player, is to be like,
and take good notes. Like if you have a
yes, taking notes,
and then
because then you can recall
your
to that
party. If you have a like, we do something in our campaign where one of our members records like a pretty fleshed out history of everything that's happened,
incredibly detailed,
and being able to go back and like as a player, if you have that high intelligence and you think that it would make sense for your character to remember this or have it in their mind, then going back and referencing that it's a great tool.
Yeah, so notes can really help you like appear intelligent, because then you can remember that vital information. Oh yeah, this was the barkeep's name, or he mentioned this, So detailed notes can help you come off as
Justin, how many times have we rolled had to roll to remember something because we personally did it?
Probably 100 times.
100 times a session.
Well, no,
not like that, but at least like
the last 2 years. I've just been like, you guys know this information. I've told you it already. And it's like, no, nobody. All right, roll to remember.
Yeah, roll to remember this information that you do know. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's funny.
Well, yeah, that makes me think of the fact that we're closed and you should get out of my tavern.
Oh, really? Even after I was so charismatic?
I don't know. I mean, you could try to persuade me to stay open longer, but
all right, let me give it a shot.
I have really low intelligence, so
I say something very persuasive.
It seems like I was not paying attention, and
I rolled so well. All right, well, gave it my the old college try. I wrote everything down we said, by the way, so in case I recount it later.
I gotta be honest with you. I've been using the G45 for mixing my drinks, and to be honest, I kind of prefer yours without it, which doesn't make sense to me because it makes everything taste
all right
good.
You don't gotta suck up to him. Let's get out of here.
All right. Yeah, I had too much to drink anyways. All right, see ya.
Yeah, remember, you guys all pay for your drinks, so
we have to pay?
Go shoot, keep moving.